Hi, this lesson is going to be on a Fred McDowell song called Jesus is Gonna Make Up My Dying Bed. It's vestapol tuning, so Dad, F sharp, bad. The recording that is on YouTube has him playing a little sharper than that, but just to keep things simplified, we'll just stay in relatively accurate tuning. And the exact notes are in the info section if you missed what I just said. So this lesson we can break it up, into what he plays on a typical chorus, and then we can work a little bit on this little tiny little solo that he plays. Alright, so I'll just go through what he plays during a chorus and then we'll move on. So, dealing with the treble side first. The first slide involves going into the 5th fret of the B string. Excuse me for a second. I never think to do that before the lesson for some reason. But anyways, so slide into the 5th fret of the B string. A couple of things to note. If you are interested in getting Fred McDowell's bitey, cutty, edgy slide tone, then some things you can keep in mind are, number one, not to mute behind the fret, behind the slide. Depending on the style, like you might want to do that sort of thing where you mute behind the slide. If you're unfamiliar with that, it's basically when you just leave a finger or two behind the slide to mute the sound that comes from behind the strings. But it really adds, in this case, to that tone. That versus this, which is muted, which is much more mellow and not as delta-y, so to speak. Next, you might want to, snap it a bit. I might be snapping it too much. I never really know how it comes through the camera until I watch it and think I snapped it too much. But if you give it a good pluck with your right hand, then you can really get that tone. And then if you want number 3, you can just add a fair bit of vibrato too, as he would have done. Anyhow, to get back into the song, 5th fret, and then on this top E string, you'll come up here and go. Slide into the 3rd fret and hit it open. Next, you'll be sliding into approximately the 6th fret. Then get into the 5th fret, and then back to that 3rd fret. So on that top string, 5th fret. Notice how the notes are approached. It's accelerating as you're going in, and the acceleration slows down. So if this is acceleration versus time, it's extremely quick and then it tapers off. Kind of like the RPMs of a car. Helps to kind of get some of that shape too. Alright, so that's the first thing. And then it's pretty much the same thing, but now you start that B string note with the 3rd fret. And on the top E string is the same stuff. Another way, another thing to consider to get more of a sinister sound is to use to speak technically, the major 3rd and the minor 3rd. So rather than just sliding the minor 3rd here, like that was just going into the minor 3rd, which has a nice evil-ish tone in and of itself. What you can do is get into the major, slide into the major 3rd, back into the minor 3rd. And the way that sounds is now moving on, you repeat that first phrase. And then we're just about done actually. Just to recap, because I've been speaking in a sort of inarticulate way. You start on the 5th fret of the B string, then the 3rd fret of the B string, and if you want to add the major 3rd, minor 3rd thing, and then back to the 5th fret. Now this is where he sings "Jesus Gonna Make Up My Dying Bed." So that is just sliding approximately into the 6th fret, maybe a little past the 6th fret, maybe a bit before the 6th fret. But then you get back into the 5th fret, open, 3rd fret, into the 3rd fret there, 3rd fret of the B string, open, top string, and then slide into the 5th fret of the B string. So that's what he does on the treble side. Now, in terms of what he does with the bass strings, on the first couple choruses he does some sort of a routine that you can follow and that I can at least speak to constructively. But for the most part, you can really just do whatever you want, as long as, if you want to say somewhat on track with what he does, as long as you kind of use only the octaves here, those being the bottom note and the D string. So what he does on the first chorus, say, is starts with the top octave and then gets to the bottom. And then he, on beats 2, 3, and 4, hits this top octave. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the way that sounds is. I can't get that. Anyways, you get what I mean. I didn't really notice that he did that specifically until like 6 seconds ago, so it's a bit rusty for me. You can also just hit alternate bass lines on all the beats, like. Please forgive the sloppiness. It's usually better. But you get the general gist. Basically, if you want some sort of routine that's similar to what he does, just do that whole, and then 2, 3, 4. And you've basically got what he does. Let's see, a couple different things that he might do is, rather than play the melody up here, he might do it on the D string. Due to the tuning of vestapol, this being a D note, this being an A note, you can just do everything that you do up there, but just move it to these 2 strings, because this is also a D note, and this is also an A note. So you can just do that same thing. Okay, now we'll deal with the solo that goes like this. So, you can probably even just work that out by ear. I'll name the notes out anyways. Slide into the octave. Again, you can think about the car RPM sort of thing. Smearing your way in there. Into the 12th fret. Then, once you get into that 12th fret, pluck the B string. And then slide down into the 10th fret. Hit the top string open. Slide into the 8th fret of the B string. And then hit the top string open again. Alternatively, you can obviously finger this in all sorts of ways. You can find that bottom D note, once you slide into that 8th fret, that minor third, you can just find the D note here, on the G string. But typically the more resonance the better, so you can just find the note here. If you miss that, again, when you slide into that 8th note of the B string, you can hit the D note on the G string 8th fret. Which is, your slide's already there. So. Yeah. Another way you can finger it for even more resonance is that same thing. You can just play it all on the E string pretty much. Obviously the 5 is here, minor third here, and the open string. Okay. That pretty much covers the song. Yeah. If you've got any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in.